Okay, we are recording, and this time I'll go and get this running. Oh, wrong button. Come on, it's right there. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be running through actually creating some gameplay in Verse. What you see on screen is exactly what I would like to have done within the hour. Fingers crossed this actually comes through. We'll see what actually happens. So the idea is that we have a quest. So our player knows that they need to get something inside of this. I'm going to call it a warehouse, even though it's a tunnel. So inside the warehouse, but they can't see anything. It's super dark inside of there, right? So we need to actually turn the power on. We're going to fix the fuse box. And once that fuse box is fixed, said fuse box, the doors will open, which will give us more light in here. But not only that, it will actually turn on the power on the inside of it too. So then once we walk in, there's actually a motion detector in there that says, hey, you've walked in this area, turn on the light, right? Like modern technology does. So welcome. We got some more people showing up. So we're going to go ahead and walk through this. I do want to preface that a couple things we are not going to be covering are the sequencer, because that is something that I used for this, the modeling tools, which I used to make the actual doors that you see right there. And I'm not going to cover lighting, like this little area where it gets dark and comes back out. We have tutorials for all of those. So they're basically pieces that are already set in place, and we're going to be connecting them together. That's really what the biggest part of this is, and to get used to the Verse language and how what we know as Fortnite creators, things like the event binding or channels as they used to be, how that actually is translated into Verse and how you can build upon that. Okay. And a little happy dance at the end. All right. So first things first, I do have UEFN actually running right here. So a couple of things that we have that you will need if you're going to follow along with this. Oh, also, by the way, this whole code, everything that you see here, I did put in a snippet. You can actually find that on the Epic. Oh, I didn't copy and paste it. You can actually find it on the dev forums. Here it is right here. Boom. So this code, here it is, everything that you need. Expand code. This is the same thing. I will copy this and I will paste this into the chat. So now you have it. So this is everything that we have. Fingers crossed we get through everything. I don't think we're going to do it in an hour, but we'll get all the basic pieces in here. And of course, you can ask me questions as needed. Okay, so talk about the things that you're going to need. One, you're going to need a button. We have a button over here. It's basically just hidden as the actual little fuse box. So that little thing right there. So that's what it's going to be, right? The other things that we have in here are a mutator zone. So the mutator zone is basically behaving as my motion detector. So if somebody actually walks into this, it's going to turn on the light. The light is actually sitting up here, okay? The other thing that we have going on in here is a HUD device. This HUD device, it just says, fix the fuse box. Okay, it's just going to pop up on screen. We may or may not get to this part. We may end up just doing a print string instead, which is great for debugging. I would love to talk about that. The other thing that I have in here is a sequence. So this sequence player, when you actually play this, I'll just move the camera here. You will actually see the doors open and that camera actually zooms in, right? So all of this stuff was covered in previous videos, so I'm not going to cover it now. We're just going to connect it all together. JJ, nice. Everybody's joining in today. Okay, first thing we want to do is we want to be able to play with Verse, so we have to install Visual Studio Code. Not going to cover that now. However, if you do not have it installed, all you have to do is actually just click on this button up here and it will ask you to install it, which is super cool. So once you have it installed, you actually have to open up the Verse Explorer so that you can create a new Verse device. That's easy enough. If you come up here to Verse, ooh, it might be in Tools. Ooh, nope, it's in Verse. Cool. We have our Verse Explorer. Yay, I remembered where it was. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. I always dock mine on the right-hand side, so you'll see it pop up over there. Ta-da, there it is. So this first Verse device, this is what we're going to build. We're going to start from scratch though. Okay, so I'm not going to just copy and paste code unless I start running out of time. So I'm going to come up here to where it says content, and I'm just going to right click and we say create new Verse file. This will just create a new Verse file, like it says. Go ahead and open that up. At the top up here, we want to give it a very unique name. So let's call this, let's just call this Quest. We'll call this, yeah, we'll call it Quest. Quest device. A couple things that are important. I'm going to put a space. Sorry, I'm not going to put a space in here. I'm going to put an underscore, and I'm going to leave everything lowercase. which is how I've decided to make this happen in my life. Then all you got to do is hit this big fat create button that you see down here at the bottom. This will create a new device. So say create, we'll wait for it, and it will then pop up in our list right here. Cool. Now, the other thing, let's go ahead and get rid of the old one. I'm going to delete that. The other thing that we need to do is we need to go ahead and make sure that we can put this into our world. If it's not within our level and within our island, it's just not going to work. So go down to our content drawer, and at the very top up here, you should see a creative devices folder. If you don't see it, don't panic yet. What you need to do is actually compile the code. And you'll notice that that other device isn't sitting in here yet. And that's because I haven't compiled it. So if you don't see the folder and you don't see the device in there, it's because you haven't compiled yet, right? So let's go up to verse. We'll say build verse code. Yay, everything seems to be good. Let's go back in there. Hey, there's my Quest device. Now I can actually drag this into the world. Hey, welcome, welcome. I got some more people showing up. So take my Quest device, and I'm just going to set it right here. I like to keep my, yes, Carter, thank you. The Control-Shift-B is a hotkey to build verse code. Yay, hotkeys. Yeah, people are showing up. Okay, so with this in there and having it selected, you'll see over here on the left-hand side with its details, there's nothing really in here yet. And this is what we want to populate. Now, we're going to go through a really simple situation where it's going to feel very familiar. Okay, it's going to feel a lot like event binding, and you're going to go, why would I do verse if I can do event binding, right? Well, as we go on, you're going to see some of the advantages of using verse. One, it's going to be faster, which is a huge thing. So we want to go ahead and start to write the code for this thing now that we have it in here and we have it actually compiled. Let's go back into our Verse Explorer, and you can literally just double click on this one, or you can actually hit the verse button up here and it'll open it up as well. What I'm saying it's going to open is Visual Studio Code. So I'll click on that, ta-da, and then it opens up. Now, over here on the left, I want to try and find my Quest device. So this thing, I'm going to hit Control B just to get rid of that. For those that are interested, these are all just kind of down here at the bottom. Control B will close that. So in here, we have a couple of things. So let's talk about what we see first and foremost. The stuff here at the top, these, you can kind of think of these as like a library of books. If we want to write anything in our story down here, we have to know what kind of information we're going to write with, right? Without the stuff up here at the top, our code won't work. So if I delete this, it starts giving me all these errors. You're like, so Control Z, let's undo that. The next thing we see is line 6. This is just information about what we can learn, more documentation. I'm going to just delete it just to keep it nice and clean. And then this one here on 7, it says, hey, this is what this is. This is just a device that you can drag into the world. Real quick, you will notice these things, right? That little hash mark basically means that this whole line is a comment, and the compiler, the code, isn't going to read it. This is just notes for us humans. These are human notes, right? I don't need this. I'm just going to go ahead and select this line. I'm going to click on 7 over here and just go ahead and delete it. Okay. When I do recordings, I don't know if my cursor is actually showing up. So real quick to the audience, can you guys see my cursor moving around? Yes. Okay, good. Sweet. Thank you. Sometimes Camtasia doesn't, thank you. Thumbs up. Perfect. Doesn't actually record it. So it's good to know Zoom actually picks up on it. Perfect. Okay. So when the game begins, that's what this little thing is. Oh, sorry. Let's talk about this. This is a device. It is a class. This is our little device. Everything that is in here underneath this is what this device does. That's what this is, right? So when the game begins, on begin, we're going to start doing something. And in our case, for this one, it's just going to write hello world and print 2 + 2. These are little print strings. These are great for doing debugging. We will use these in a minute. But for now, I don't need them, so I'm going to ignore them. Now, right here on line 8, between line 8 and 9, we're going to start adding in pieces that we need to work with. So if I move this out of the way, the things that we need to be able to play with are the button, our sequence device, the HUD, the actual mutator, and then the light that's actually up in here too, right? It's up there. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that we need to play with. So let's just kind of add these things one at a time. So up here at the top, what I want to do is I want to type in the word @editable, right? So this will allow the designers to actually add stuff to our verse device over here in the details, right? So anything that's an @editable, I should be able to give off to my designer so they can build stuff. So we need to be